With big smashes that warp reality and impossibly fast baseballs, Lethal League has always been an adrenaline-pumping game with a simple idea backed up by an intense flair for presentation. The sequel, Lethal League Blaze, adds additional complexity to that formula, but still maintains the series' simple core appeal. As always, I'm Alex, and this is First 5, where I ask if games are worth your time, not your money. I played a game for 5 hours, and I'm gonna tell you if those are 5 hours well spent. And today we're knocking a baseball around at ludicrous speed.
Welcome to Lethal League Blaze.
I've been enjoying Lethal League since it was a random browser game that popped up in fighting game mystery tournaments. Not to bust out my hipster cred or anything, but back then it was just two identical guys trying to smack each other with a baseball at absolutely ludicrous speeds. More fighting game than exotic form of sports ball, Lethal League was a straightforward, stripped-down version of its genre. You've got a baseball, two people with bats, and whoever gets hit by the ball first loses. Every time you hit the ball, it starts flying around exponentially faster, and you need to smash, parry, and bunch your way to slamming that ball directly into your opponent's face. Lethal League Blaze adds a lot to that formula. There's almost double the characters of the previous entry, each with their own special moves and attributes. The core gameplay sees the addition of several new moves, including the ability to snatch the ball out of midair and throw it at your opponent. We've got new alternate game modes like this, admittedly kind of awkward volleyball mode, and characters have health bars that allow them to shrug off smaller hits they couldn't before, changing up some of the dynamics of how the game plays. With such a simple construct as Lethal League, there's always that nagging worry that if you touch it too much and you throw too many new ideas in at once, that simple and elegant gameplay loop will tumble down like a house of cards. But for Lethal League Blaze, the new additions have just created a stronger foundation that has evolved the formula into its fullest, most rewarding form yet. In particular, the addition of the health bar is actually a great addition to the game. Fewer rounds end anticlimactically when one player accidentally whiffs a swing and gets hit 5 seconds into a match, and it adds depth by giving players extra strategies they can pursue. It does the same thing the racket health system did in the new Mario Tennis. The main strategy is still to go for the big one-hit KO Grand Slam, but now you can also try to whittle your opponent down early in the match with a bunch of slower hits, or, if they're already low on health, just try and spike the ball in their face. Lethal League Blaze offers a few different ways to play. It's primarily designed for playing against other people, but there are a few ways to duke it out with the AI, including a story mode which is pretty good for giving the player space to learn the basics and try out each character without being a total pushover. That said, the story mode doesn't quite capture what makes Lethal League so great. Like with almost any fighting game, if you want the full Lethal League experience, you have to take it online. Because when you just fight the AI, you almost entirely miss Lethal League's biggest, best moments. As I mentioned, every time you hit the ball, it starts moving just a little bit faster, and eventually, a match can get to the point where the ball starts zipping around the screen so fast that it's practically invisible. And whenever someone hits the ball, the impact is so heavy that it makes the whole screen go negative with this almighty crash that makes it sound like you're batting around nuclear bombs instead of baseballs. These exponentially escalating standoffs are what make Lethal League so special and unique. The first time you experience one of these moments is when the game clicks. When you actually hit the ball, the feeling of satisfaction is immense, and when you're on the receiving end, you start sweating as the ball hovers for a few seconds in the air, tensely preparing to time your response to the exact moment that ball releases. It is pure weaponized excitement, and Lethal League sells these climaxes perfectly. So okay, that's a few fantastic moments, but what do you get in composite with 5 hours of Lethal League Blaze? The nice thing about multiplayer-centric games is that you can play them as much or as little as you want and still walk away satisfied. And the great thing about Lethal League is that it's one of the few games that's actually telling the truth when it says it's easy to learn but difficult to master, something that is virtually singular about it in its genre. The only fighting game that's easier to just pick up and play than this is probably Dive Kick. And it's great that you don't have to sit there and spend 2 hours learning a bunch of combos before you feel vaguely competent at the game. And by the end of the hour-ish long story mode, you'll have a basic grasp of every mechanic in the game and how each character works. This game will satisfy whether you play it for 5 hours, 20 hours, or just have a controller shoved into your hand for a half hour at a friend's place. If it isn't obvious yet, I love it. And I wish more people loved it too. It's got enough of a community going right now that you can find a match in a reasonable amount of time, but good luck trying to fill up an entire lobby to explore the 4-way free-for-all or 2v2 game modes, which both make for some decently fun mayhem. The multiplayer experience is definitely a little smoother with a friend or two in tow, but regardless, this is a game that deserves a larger, more dedicated following. So get out there, and get following. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this First 5 review. If you did, maybe consider hitting the subscribe button. If you're looking for games that value your time and don't pad themselves, I'm your guy. And be sure to check out some of my other reviews or some longer form content while you're here. But regardless, thanks for watching this far, and I'll see you all next week.